A car crash gave my husband and me a second chance on the day I introduced him to my parents. He threw the gift he was holding aside and demanded that I break up with him. I agreed without hesitation, for in our previous life, we ended in divorce, and neither of us wanted to relive the same arguments and conflicts. He went overseas to search for his long-lost first love, while I stayed at the local hospital and focused on my work. 7 years later, at the wedding reception of an old classmate, he belittled me, claiming I resembled a cleaning lady. But when he saw my twin daughters call me mommy, his anger flared as he asked, "How could you let another man have your children?" He threw the fruit he was holding on the floor and demanded we break up. He also refused to meet my parents. At that moment, I realized something. Seeing the joy and excitement in his eyes, I nodded and agreed. Kevin Lee and I had both been reborn, back to the day I took him to meet my parents. In my previous life, I was a heart surgeon and he was a dentist. Although we both had busy schedules, I still took care of most of the household chores. After work, he would just relax on the couch, claiming to be too tired, while I handled the cooking. He said his back hurt from sitting at a desk all day, so I took on the sweeping and mopping. After every meal, he would hug me and say how hard I worked, and I would always reply that it wasn't a problem because I loved him and was willing to sacrifice for the family. He understood how much I gave up, and he would often bring me my favorite grapes on his way home. When I was ill, he would stay by my side all night. Our colleagues at the hospital admired us as the perfect couple, but everything changed after attending his friend's child's first birthday party. I suggested we have a baby, but he mocked me, asking if I knew how expensive it was. When I asked him to massage my back after a tiring day of housework, he became annoyed and accused me of being fussy. He said others didn't complain about aches and pains. When I asked him to buy some fruit on his way home, he told me I should lose weight instead. When I was sick and asked for a glass of water, he snapped that I wasn't a princess and shouldn't expect others to wait on me. I thought he was stressed from work and tried to comfort him. But later, I overheard him talking to a friend on the phone and learned the truth. His friend had married a wealthy woman because of his looks, which had raised his status. His new life included a chauffeur, a cook, and a nanny. The cost of his friend's baby's first month celebration was equal to 50 years of Kevin's salary. They discussed how marrying a rich wife could change a man's life, and Kevin mentioned his first love, Cynthia Deng. He said if it weren't for me, he and Cynthia would have been together and lived a life of luxury. One time, after drinking too much, he admitted he regretted marrying me, saying if we hadn't met, he would still be with his first love and be rich. He hinted that I should accept red envelopes from patients to earn extra money, and if they didn't, I shouldn't treat them well. I firmly refused. In response, he threw my pillow out of the bed and ordered me to sleep in the guest room. He made excuses to discard the food I prepared, and even kicked over the trash can to provoke me. After I returned from a long surgery, exhausted, he mocked me, claiming I was rich but didn't know how to make money, and that I would be stuck in a lowly job forever. Despite having no mortgage on our RV, $500,000 in savings, a research bonus coming my way, and both our parents receiving pensions, he became dissatisfied after seeing his friend's success. His failure to earn more made him lash out at me. The tipping point came when we were arguing, and he pushed me so hard that I hit the corner of the table, resulting in a miscarriage. Before I realized it, he had already left. I was both physically and emotionally drained, and when he proposed a divorce, I agreed. On the way to finalize it, we were involved in a fatal car accident. Although we were given a second chance at life, we separated quietly. Soon after, I heard Kevin Lee had gone abroad while I stayed at the local hospital, continuing my work and research. 7 years later, after a 12-hour surgery, I collapsed in a chair, drinking water to recover. I received a call from my college classmate, Lily Jang, urging me to attend a wedding. Since I couldn't go home to change, I rode my bike to the venue, which was faster than driving. Just as I was about to arrive at the hotel, someone called my name. I turned to see Kevin Lee, whom I hadn't seen in years, walking toward me in a sharp black suit and shiny leather shoes. He dusted off his sleeves, revealing an expensive watch on his wrist, and sneered at me. "Nina Jenkins, it's your best friend's wedding today, and you show up in crumpled clothes looking like a cleaning lady." Before I could respond, a voice interrupted me. "Isn't this Nina Jenkins?" Cynthia Deng appeared, wearing a form-fitting red dress, her yellow wavy hair cascading down and her red nails gleaming. She stood arm in arm with Kevin Lee, smiling triumphantly. After all, she was recognized as a heart surgery genius in our class. Now look at her. She's struggling. Meanwhile, I've opened a private hospital and am doing well. I can offer you a receptionist job just for old time's sake. What do you think? Looking at the luxurious clothes they wore, it was clear Kevin Lee had gotten what he wanted and reunited with his wealthy first love. I politely declined. No thanks. Several classmates who had come with them surrounded me, one raising an eyebrow. Don't be too quick to turn it down, Nina Jenkins. You don't know Cynthia Dung has joined a top medical research team abroad and now runs her own private hospital. People would do anything to work with her. Other classmates nodded in agreement, saying that Cynthia had cured cancer patients and was now famous in the medical field. You're really turning down her offer? They asked. Her hospital receptionist job is easy and stress-free. It's better than looking like a cleaning lady. Cynthia is amazing. She's already made it while the rest of us are still struggling. As classmates, we could all benefit from her success. Listening to their conversation, I felt nothing. I now understood what they meant when they said reunions revealed people's true nature. Still, I could sympathize with them. Life is tough, and everyone wants to find a way to improve their situation. When they noticed I wasn't responding, one classmate glared at me and said, "Come on, Nina Jenkins. Cynthia gave you a chance, and you're not even grateful? Don't be arrogant just because you did well in school. The real world is different." I was speechless. I had just turned down her offer, yet they called me arrogant for standing quietly to the side. I calmly told them, I have my own job, and I'm doing fine. When Cynthia Dung heard this, she scoffed. Kevin Lee scowled at me and said, Nina Jenkins, I've told you before that life after school is completely different. You're just an average doctor now. Cynthia is willing to assist you, and it would be far better for you to go abroad with her than to stay in China. We shared something, but now I'm with Cynthia. Don't feel awkward accepting her help because of me. Cynthia Dung smiled, kissed Kevin Lee's cheek, and said playfully, That's right. Kevin and I were first loves. Even though you two were together for a while, I didn't mind. Kevin told me you're good at studying, so I should help you. I responded firmly, I'm fine. I'm doing well at work. I couldn't understand how they came up with such ideas for me. Kevin Lee was a part of my past, and fortunately, my roommate Tina Lee rushed over, grabbing my arm. I'm not late, am I? There was traffic, so I had to run, she said. I smiled and said to them, Let's go inside quickly. The wedding is about to start. As we entered, I overheard classmates whispering. When I sat down at the table, one of them said, Kevin Lee has great taste. He knew Nina Jenkins was only good at academics and lacked real skills, so he picked his first love, Cynthia Dung, instead. Another chimed in. You're right. It doesn't matter that Nina was top of the class. She's still just working in a hospital, while Cynthia Dung now has her own clinic. Wow. Both Kevin's girlfriends at the same table, and the difference is clear. Cynthia Dung is doing much better than her. I wonder how Nina feels. Of course she doesn't feel good, someone added. She must be pretending. Just now I saw Nina looking so calm, but she was probably hurt. Nina Jenkins overheard this and stood up, holding a glass of wine, chin raised, and said, Don't mind what our classmates said. I've always treated everyone the same. You outperformed me in school, but times have changed. Don't be too hard on yourself. Kevin Lee, looking at me with disdain, said, I've always said you're too rigid. Life is not school. You'll work forever, and one day you'll regret not accepting our help. The wedding march played as I watched the bride and groom exchange rings. The dishes kept coming, and as people drank, the conversation shifted to jobs and income. When they learned that Cynthia Dung was opening a second hospital, they toasted her repeatedly. I had always known Cynthia was no ordinary person and would succeed. It had become evident. She wasn't just an academic. She had real skills. Just look at the cancer patients she's treated, one of them said. Cynthia Dung is a real talent, just like she was back in school. Yes, she studied in a foreign country for years and her skills are exceptional, another added. Cynthia Dung, holding her glass, revealed a jade bracelet on her wrist, accepting compliments graciously. I also want to thank my fiancé Kevin, who's been by my side all these years, taking care of everything so I could focus on my medical studies, she said. Kevin Lee draped his arm around her shoulders and smiled, saying, I also want to thank you for helping me with my thesis, getting my articles published, for promoting me to deputy director, and for giving me the respect that has made me the envy of others. Kevin Lee's great judgment led him to choose Cynthia Dung so early. Someone whispered. Remember when we graduated, Cynthia was dating Nina Jenkins, another added. The first replied, I see. First, love always wins. If Kevin Lee had stayed with Nina Jenkins, they'd probably both still be working regular jobs with no future. Exactly, someone else agreed. Cynthia Dung was his first love, and Nina Jenkins was second. The gap between them now is like the difference between heaven and earth. The room buzzed with excitement as everyone seemed to want to get closer to Cynthia Dung and Kevin Lee. My presence felt like a mere tool to connect them. Tina Lee leaned in and said to me, I didn't realize Cynthia Dung was this impressive. She was a nerd back then, but now she's curing cancer. Kevin Lee got back together with his girlfriend, and now he's flaunting her success as his own. He's proud of his life, all thanks to her. If your boyfriend had to compare, he's got nothing on him. I smiled, thinking of my husband, and my heart softened until the bride began tossing the bouquet. Everyone rushed to grab it. Kevin Lee stood up and announced he was going to propose, and before long his classmates had pushed him onto the stage. No one else tried to reach for the bouquet, and I watched as Kevin Lee picked up the one no one else wanted. He walked toward Cynthia Dung, knelt down, and proposed. Cynthia, with tears in her eyes, nodded continuously, saying, Yes. The crowd erupted in applause. I hung my jacket on a chair and told Tina Lee I was going to the bathroom. When I stepped out, I saw Kevin Lee leaning against a nearby wall. I nodded and planned to leave, but he stopped me. Nina Jenkins, I saw you on the way here. You were riding a shared bicycle, and it looked really awkward. I didn't think you'd end up like this. I kept telling you to work hard, to follow Cynthia Dung's example and go abroad with us. With your grades, you could have already made it, but you were stubborn. Look at our classmates today. None of them dress worse than you, I explained indifferently. I just had a long surgery yesterday, and I didn't have time to change. He cut me off impatiently. Don't be so stubborn. Is it really that hard to admit you're not doing well? I'm glad I broke up with you. Cynthia Dung is much smarter than you and makes a lot more money. You just focused on studying. I sneered. All you care about is money. If Cynthia Dung wasn't so impressive, would you still be with her? Feeling bored, I was about to leave when Cynthia Dung suddenly approached. She put her arm around Kevin Lee's and looked at me with a slight tilt of her chin. Are you catching up with an old flame? She asked. Kevin quickly put his arm around her waist and said, Old flame? The only person I'm sure of now is you. Cynthia smiled knowingly. Of course I know. After all, everyone picks the best one, she said, shaking her head. When Kevin broke up with me and started dating you, I was so bitter. I was always second to you. You were always the top student while everyone praised you. But now I look at you, and you're not that great after all. People need to accept their shortcomings. Honestly, I'm kind of glad to see you doing so poorly. She patted my shoulder mockingly before walking away, laughing as she went. As she passed me, she whispered, You'll always be better than me in studies, but remember, Kevin Lee once left me for you, and I swore then that I'd rise above you someday. Back then, when Kevin Lee had broken up with Cynthia Dung and started dating me, Cynthia had come to find me, swearing she would one day stand above me and prove she was better. It seemed she and Kevin Lee truly were a perfect match, both obsessed with comparison, but I realized I only compare myself to my past self. Returning to the wedding hall, the guests had started leaving. I grabbed my jacket and was about to say goodbye to Lily Jang when Cynthia suddenly blocked my way. I've lost my ring, she said, her expression serious. No one can leave until we find it. It's a 2 million yuan ring. The other classmates joined in, echoing her concern. A ring worth 2 million? We have to find it. Cynthia Deng and Kevin Lee are clearly very wealthy now. Did you leave the ring on the sink when you went to wash your hands, or did it fall off among all the people? Everyone kept throwing out possible scenarios. I glanced at the time on my phone, and the fatigue from the previous night and busy morning made me long for a quiet rest. Your ring is very valuable, so just call the police. It will be faster that way, I suggested. However, Cynthia Dung immediately refused, saying it would look bad since we were old classmates and didn't want things to escalate. She then looked at me and said, "I think we should search ourselves. We're old classmates, and I don't want it to get embarrassing." She approached me and asked, "Do you mind if I check your pockets?" "If you've done nothing wrong, there's nothing to fear." I handed her my clothes, feeling confident I had done nothing wrong. She rifled through my pockets and pulled out a ring with a smug smile. I frowned, feeling confused. "I haven't taken anything of yours," I said. Kevin Lee grabbed my jacket and tossed it onto the ground, accusing, "Even a thief wouldn't admit to stealing." "Nina Jenkins, we've broken up. I bought this ring to propose to Cynthia. What do you mean by stealing it?" I firmly denied it. "It wasn't me. If you're going to keep accusing me, you can call the police and they'll sort it out." The commotion attracted the attention of the banquet hall staff, and someone quickly came over. "Mom, Mom." I looked up to see my children running toward me. I picked one up and asked them, surprised, why they were there. My husband, Michael Lucas, walked over, took our son in his arms, and said to him, "Your mother must be tired carrying both of you." He then placed his arm around my shoulders and added, "I heard from the manager that someone lost something here." "What's going on?" The hotel manager introduced, "This is Mr. Michael Lucas, our CEO. He can help resolve this situation. You can explain the details to him." "Michael Lucas? Isn't that the CEO of Lucas Corporation, the largest hotel chain in the country?" One of my classmates whispered. "Yes, the hotel where this wedding banquet is being held is part of Lucas Corporation," another added. "But why is she called Mrs. Lucas? And why do the children call her Mom? They can't be married, can they?" Ignoring their murmurs, I explained what had happened to Michael Lucas in detail. He quickly ordered someone to call the police and review the surveillance footage. Cynthia Dung's face instantly changed. "There's no need for the police. We've already found the ring. Let's just forget it. We're all classmates after all. I don't want to cause a scene." But Michael Lucas replied firmly, "Miss Dung, this ring is worth over 2 million yen. It's a valuable item. Since it was lost on our premises, we must investigate and make sure the truth is uncovered. We have to protect the reputation of our hotel." Cynthia Deng said nothing in response, but her eyes showed clear anxiety. Kevin Lee, on the other hand, wore a conflicted expression and turned to Michael Lucas. "What's your connection with me?" he asked. I looked at the classmates who had been eavesdropping, all of them now looking at Michael Lucas with interest. "This is my husband, Michael Lucas," I said. Lily Jang immediately took her husband's hand and came over to us, smiling. "Today's wedding venue is thanks to Nina. My husband and I are very happy with it. When we get back, we'll invite you both to dinner." Michael Lucas replied politely, "You are Nina's good friends, so of course I'd like to treat you with respect." After hearing this, my classmates' attitudes toward me shifted. I had no idea Nina Jenkins secretly got married, and her husband is such a powerful figure. One of them exclaimed, "Kevin Lee always looked down on her, but now she's married someone better. Her husband is so wealthy. How could he still care about Cynthia Dung's ring? Something seems off here, doesn't it?" Someone murmured. "The police will figure it out soon." Another classmate commented, "You didn't tell us you were married. We would have given you a red envelope." I glanced at the group of people who had ignored me earlier and were now trying to get on my good side. I gave them a few polite words in return. Later that evening, Cynthia Dung tried to leave but was stopped by a security guard. Soon after, the police arrived and the surveillance footage was reviewed. As I left, Cynthia Dung accidentally brushed past me, and the ring she was holding fell into my pocket. The truth came to light. Since the ring was of high value, Cynthia Dung was taken by the police for attempting to frame someone for theft. After I exited the hotel, Kevin Lee quickly approached me and stopped me. I told Michael Lucas to take the children to the car because it was too sunny outside. Michael Lucas, with a possessive look, kissed me on the forehead, glanced at Kevin Lee, and then led the children to the car. Kevin Lee looked at me with confusion and curiosity. "How did you end up marrying Michael Lucas?" he asked. I explained. Michael Lucas's father was hospitalized in our hospital for coronary heart disease, and I was his attending physician. I met Michael during his father's stay. He admired my professionalism, my pursuit of knowledge, and his own abilities. and filial piety drew me to him. We naturally fell in love and got married. The wedding was low-key. I only invited close friends, Lily Jang and Tina Lee, so no one else knew about our marriage. Kevin Lee's eyes grew red. Is that your child? But you once said you wanted to have children with me. How could you have someone else's child? I was taken aback by his words. I couldn't help but remind him. Vows only take effect when two people are together. We've broken up, Kevin Lee. My husband and child are still waiting for me. I'm leaving now. He called out, Nina Jenkins, do you still love me? I shook my head firmly. I let go of my feelings for you long ago. Now, I love my husband and my children. I don't understand why you'd ask something like that. There's no point in dwelling on the past. My current focus is only on my family and my work. I thought about leaving it at that and treating Cynthia Deng as any other acquaintance. When I heard the news that Cynthia Deng had been caught for academic fraud and using human subjects in her experiments, I was both angry and shocked. She had always been a top student at our university, and after graduating, she quickly secured a position at a prestigious hospital. She found a way to join a renowned research team abroad, publishing papers, journals, and earning accolades. She left her peers behind, especially after her successful treatments of cancer patients, which made her even more famous. With the support of the research team, she went on to open her own hospital. However, everything fell apart when it was discovered that the research team she was part of had been using healthy people for experiments. They would turn them into cancer patients and study their disease progression before providing treatment. The patients that Cynthia had cured were never actually cured, and now their bodies had developed serious side effects. Her hospital was shut down after it was exposed for selling fake medications, and the research team was arrested. It seems Cynthia Deng will never get out of prison in her lifetime. Upon hearing this, I couldn't help but express my disgust. What she did was completely despicable. Academic research is a challenging and lengthy process, especially in the medical field, where every successful case represents progress. Maintaining integrity and sticking to one's principles is crucial. The method she employed, harming people for personal gain, is completely outrageous. A few days later, I received a call from an unknown number. On the other end was Kevin Lee, sounding panicked. Nina, what should I do? Cynthia Deng gave me some medicine before. Do you think there's something wrong with it? Could it harm me? The hospital has been shut down, and I was just released after being taken in for questioning. I never knew she was doing these things, he said. Although I was irritated by his call, I advised him seriously. You should go to the hospital for a full checkup to see what's going on. Several days later, Kevin Lee appeared at my office, looking defeated. Nina, my test results show I have terminal lung cancer. The vitamins Cynthia Deng gave me were fake. What should I do now? He asked, distressed. I quickly reviewed his report and said, You should be admitted to the hospital right away and follow the doctor's instructions for treatment. After completing the necessary paperwork, I handed him a glass of water as he sat on the bed, looking lost. Kevin Lee hesitated before speaking. I knew you wouldn't abandon me. You still care about me, don't you? I was blind to go to Cynthia Deng. Looking back, you were always the best for me. Nina, I've realized my mistake. I shouldn't have broken up with you. And I shouldn't have called you a loser. I was wrong. Can you forgive me and take me back? I frowned and responded coldly. Kevin Lee, we've already broken up. I have a new family now, and I no longer have feelings for you. Don't say things like that anymore. He shook his head, insisting, No, you like me. How could you help me so much if you didn't? You must still have feelings for me. I stepped back, sternly telling him, I'm just frustrated by what Cynthia Deng did. I only helped you because of our past friendship. You've misinterpreted my actions. If I've given you the wrong idea, I apologize. You should have your parents come to take care of you. As I turned to leave, Kevin Lee called out, Do you really think Michael Lucas likes you? A CEO like him, and you, an ordinary person. Do you think you two can be happy together? I'm the only one who's right for you. I walked away quickly. Some people look down on others when they're doing well, and when things aren't going well for them, they envy those who are thriving. They're never satisfied. Kevin Lee always said I only cared about studying and research, but what he didn't know was that 2 of my research breakthroughs in heart disease treatment had been published in leading international medical journals. I've dedicated myself to curing diseases and saving lives, and I've never considered myself inferior because I don't have as much wealth as others. Michael Lucas frequently tells me that my academic skills are invaluable because they can save lives, which is priceless. He admires my dedication to medicine, and I share his values and compassionate nature. That's why Kevin Lee's words no longer have any impact on me. One day, Kevin Lee barged into my office again, holding a bunch of grapes. Nina, you once told me you liked grapes, so I picked these for you. Do you like them? He asked. I told him firmly to leave, as I still had patience to see. But he stepped closer, trying to take my hand. Nina, I regret everything. I shouldn't have broken up with you. Please forgive me. Can we get back together? I couldn't tolerate it anymore and called security to remove him. After work, I went to his hospital room and told him seriously that he should stop harassing me. He kept pleading for another chance. His parents called me outside the room to apologize. They said he was unwell and under a lot of stress. I'm really sorry, but is there no hope for you and Kevin? They asked. I replied calmly. Auntie, I'm married now with a husband and children. Even if I weren't, there's no chance of being with Kevin Lee. We broke up a long time ago. Please try to convince him to stop. His parents were also under stress because of their son's illness, and I didn't want to say anything too harsh. However, I couldn't allow Kevin Lee to continue bothering me and affecting my work. Fortunately, there was an opportunity for a transfer to a hospital in a nearby city, and I volunteered for it. The hospital quickly agreed. When I arrived at the new hospital, I was surprised to see Michael Lucas there with our child. He hugged me from behind and whispered, My wife is here for business, and I'm here with the baby. Are you happy? I nodded, replying, Very happy. When I wasn't busy at work, Michael Lucas and I would take the children to nearby amusement parks and food courts. But I always had the feeling that someone was watching me. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, my phone rang. Nina, Kevin Lee stood outside the hotel where I was staying, holding a bag of food and looking up at me as he continued talking on the phone. If you don't come down, I'll just keep standing here, he said. I went over to the window and glanced down at him. Michael Lucas, noticing Kevin Lee, frowned and was about to call security to have him removed. But I stopped him, explaining that it wouldn't help. I'll go down and see what he really wants, I said. I didn't expect to be following him to the next city. When I reached the lobby, I approached Kevin Lee, clearly irritated. What do you really want? I asked. Kevin Lee opened the bags he was holding one by one. Nina, I've made your favorite dishes, he said, displaying spicy chicken, mapo tofu, mao blood, and poached sliced pork. You used to handle all the cooking and housework, but from now on, I'll take care of it. I'll cook for you. His eyes sparkled as he looked at me. I know you love spicy food, but you always cooked bland meals to suit my taste. Now, I'll cook what you like. I can eat spicy food too, he added, grabbing a piece of spicy chicken and popping it into his mouth. The heat immediately made him cough. I moved the food to the side, frowning. Why are you doing this? I asked. In our past life, I wanted to have a good life with him. Since he didn't like spicy food, I always made sure to avoid adding chili peppers to the meals I prepared. I learned to cook lighter dishes he preferred. After another argument in that life, I had once again prepared a meal full of his favorite dishes, hoping we could communicate better and continue our life together. But instead, he pushed me down hard, causing me to fall and lose the baby. He then filed for divorce. Now, looking back, I no longer feel any emotional attachment to him. Kevin Lee, flushed with embarrassment, spoke with sincerity. I just want to tell you that I haven't forgotten you. I realize now that even though you're just a doctor, you're a good one, with strong medical ethics. While I was in the hospital, I overheard the nurses talking about how amazing you are. Your groundbreaking heart disease research has greatly helped patients, he said. I was narrow-minded before. You're excellent just as you are. I was blinded by my pride and vanity. I was wrong. Can we get back together? I couldn't help but laugh. Kevin Lee, you've never liked me. Only my money. You want to get back with me because you think my research will make you look better. You're never satisfied. You only want a glamorous wife to impress others. Stop pretending to care about me. You only make me lose respect for you. Right now, I don't like you at all. So whether you're truly sorry or just pretending, I won't be with you. Just leave me alone. Let's part ways peacefully. When Kevin Lee saw I was walking away, he lunged at me, trying to hug me. Michael Lucas, who had been following me, immediately intervened and pushed Kevin Lee away. The hotel security guards rushed over and held him down. Michael Lucas coldly ordered that the police be called. In the end, Kevin Lee was escorted away by the authorities. As he was being led to the car, I heard him shout, "I really regret it, Nina. Will you forgive me?" A couple of months later, I received a call from Kevin Lee's parents. They were crying on the phone, begging me to visit him. From their voices, I could tell things weren't good, and they kept pleading. Although I didn't want to go, I couldn't bring myself to refuse them. When I arrived, I found Kevin Lee had lost a significant amount of weight, his cheekbones sharply visible. He was staring vacantly out the window, but when he saw me, a slight spark lit up his eyes. He looked at his body, laughing bitterly. "I must look terrible now, don't I?" he said. I didn't answer, and he continued, "You've been reborn, haven't you? I knew you were calm when I asked for a breakup. I should have stopped you then. If we could do it all over again, do you think we could make it work?" I cut off his hopeful words. No, life doesn't give you unlimited chances. A person's character and desires shape their path. If you're greedy and deluded, thinking you can take shortcuts to success, you'll fail no matter how many lives you're given. Kevin Lee's expression turned somber as he processed my words. "I really understand now. I know I was wrong. If I could live my life again, would you be with me?" he asked, his voice full of pain. I gave him a firm response. I only came to see you because your parents asked me to. I won't be coming again, and you must not look for me in the future." After that, I never visited him again. I later heard that he left, and he became just another ordinary classmate. I now cherish my current life even more, staying true to my principles and taking each step in life with care and dedication.